a quiet town.
Maxwell dives to xiye for the triple kill. Make his way out
At Worlds, every time you make a move or you overstay on the map, an enemy mid laner will take advantage of that.
A double kill for Drown as he says, "King me."
我想观众大家都很期待，就是中路会有单杀的画面出现，因为基本上中路要单杀其实没有那么简单。像以前那个FLICKR跟软优的对决，就是也让大家印象深刻，所以观众我觉得大家都很想看到就是单杀的画面。
卢森过来又要偏，现在一直在找机会，社交之脸进化点有用吗？没用啊，要单杀了，一波漂亮单杀。
저는 아직까지는 다른 미드라이너를 볼 때 저보다 잘한다고 느낀 선수가 없거든요.
SKT, legends for a reason, find their win.
SKT are the best team to ever play League of Legends, and that man has been there for all of it.
Welcome everyone to Wuhan, China, host of the 2017 Worlds Group Stage. We've seen all of the teams in action, and with our competitors fighting to get an edge in their group, we've got an explosive day ahead of us. Here, of course, you see the crowd that has packed the arena here to cheer on their favorite teams. No shortage of support for the LPL teams as they are in their home country. TSM, though, making their way into the arena. Moments ago, they're up against Team WE, looking for control of their group. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson here with Indiana Frosker in black, Alberto Crumbs Rengifo, and Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. Halfway through week one, we're moving into another 6 big games today.
Samsung, Galaxy, TSM, and Cloud9 all on the roster.
LPL is playing up against North America twice, which it has been the rivalry as to who can be the second best team.
Now we've got a number of games that'll determine control of the group, put us, or rather give us a front runner in each of those groups. We'll see how those games shake out shortly. Let's check in with some of our international broadcast partners in the arena. We've got, of course, the Chinese broadcast team joining us and our friends from Brazil's CBLOL helping to bring this event to all of the corners of the globe. Thank you very much, guys. A truly international event. Now, yesterday we saw SKT pull off a historic comeback to take the lead in Group A, while the LCK champions Longzhu are looking like the strongest team in Group B. We also got a look at the teams in Group D with TSM and Team WE securing themselves a win to kick off the group stage. We'll see which of them will take control of that group as they face off in our first game, followed by Flash Wolves versus Misfits Gaming. Later, we've got a fight between the Titans, Samsung Galaxy, and RNG before the teams in Group A close out the day. Now, it all looked lost for the reigning champions in SKT yesterday. They found themselves in a 9K goal deficit at 25 minutes versus the hometown favorites in EDG, and the Korean powerhouse somehow managed to recover, pulling off one of the greatest upsets in World's history.
But you wouldn't imagine it. Like you said, that 9K goal lead was built off of multiple tower dives. EDG just running through SKT. Clearlove on his famous Rek'Sai right there. Everything looked great. Please, just cut the tape right here.
Now, what we've learned about SKT is that they're basically Terminator 2. You need to try really hard.
What?
Yeah, I don't think that
They've got to spare Frosker in a little bit.
That's literally the best engage of the entire tournament so far. The best
not
play
safe
of the whole
for
tournament.
broadcast, Kobe.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, we've already seen that play many a times. We'll see it many times more, I'm sure. A world's big play, to say the least. In the last 2 days, we've seen all of our teams in action, though. So I want to ask you guys, what stood out so far? Top performers, underperformers, what are we looking at?
Well, for me, the fact that the meta came into it as full-on Ardent Sensor and we thought it was going to be all about protect the AD carry was a little bit underwhelming, but then everybody decided, let's add some variance to this. We can have early game still happening. Not everybody has picked tanks. Mid lane action has been all over the place, and that's exciting to me. So we get the bottom lane that's still the same, but everything else is all over.
And the question will be, will anyone really be able to truly break the meta, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. We've seen Longzhu kind of test around with it, but because there's been such little variance, and it still is about these late game, big, massive competitive team fights. The team that I'm really looking at is Samsung Galaxy, and specifically their Crown piece, or their jewel in Crown. Now, we didn't know what type of form Crown was going to come into. He had slumped in the summer, but coming out on his Taliyah, he was explosive, he looked crisp, he looked clean, and now Samsung Galaxy look like favorites if the meta persists through this tournament to play that style all the way to the end.
Exactly. This team loves the control, loves taking that one team fight, win the game from the get-go, and they are one of the best late-game teams in Korea. And if the meta persists, as Frost was saying, then I have them pretty high up there compared to the two Korean teams that have already shown some faults.
That's why I'm so excited for their matchup today versus RNG. You put the spotlight on Crown, and people will bring up, oh yeah, it wasn't the best season for him. Xiaohu, the one who's going to face off against him in the mid lane, had an amazing season, and RNG looked good in their first game.
All right, now we talk about some players that are performing here so far at the tournament. Let's talk about maybe some underperformers or some surprises maybe. The EU LCS, currently 0-5 through the group stages, still looking to find a win.
Now, I'm going to, ignore the LCK and the NA. I'm going to give it a little bit of EU rep. Yes, it is 0-5, but that doesn't really tell the story of how competitive these teams have been, particularly Fnatic versus Immortals. That was such a close series. Immortals have played very well, and Fnatic were right there with them. So tough stuff. Wow.
Woo,
tough
tart.
Yeah, I can't even speak.
It's all right.
Go
tough
EU.
Start. Yeah, there you go. Go EU. We're looking for some competitive matches out of them today.
I would say, yeah, a lot of EU fans can put more hope in G2 as well if they're going to, pick a champion right now, because G2, they had to play Samsung. You were just talking about, the pros of Samsung and how good they've been looking. So G2 probably are going to have an easier day today. And I think that they will pick up a win.
No matter what, we can't jump to crazy conclusions. Remember last year, NA went 0-10 in the second half of group stages. So whoever does well here will still have to play very expertly.
Nothing's decided as of yet. Still plenty to be determined. Our first game of the day features the top teams in Group D, TSM and Team WE, fighting for that control. Who do you guys think is going to take the victory here? Frost, starting with you.
Okay, I'm going to say Team WE, but the reason being is that it is the late game meta. And yes, I think TSM are stronger in the early and mid game, and likewise against Flash Wolves, they've shown that they can 5v5 at 40 minutes with the best of them, but now they're going to have to actually face the best. Mystic took down the OG Uzi, now he needs to take down the NA Uzi.
Alrighty, Crumbs, what are you thinking?
I'm going with Team WE as well, but for other reasons, because when we saw TSM play, when we saw TSM play, Svenskeren was not good. In fact, quite bad. And you have Condi, arguably the best jungler in the tournament. I think he's just gonna roll him over. And Team WE looked like they know how to execute. And against TSM, the team that has been a little bit scary.
What?
Yeah, Team WE.
Just say what you need to say, Crumbs, so I can move on to
You're not saying anything.
You guys are just looking at me like I just sinned.
You're like second-guessing your own points over there. Kobe, what are you thinking?
I am definitely going to go with TSM here. They keep bringing up, oh, yeah, TSM better in the early game. TSM have been focusing all year long on the late game. They're extremely confident in it. And people talking about the Ardent Sensor meta right now, that's really just the bottom lane, right? That's an AD carry plus a support who's going to have a shield with some, extra attack speed going there. But when that comes to Rise, the engagement becomes even more important. Hauntzer is in rare form right now. He had an amazing first game, and TSM, I think, are going to take this.
Absolutely great form out of Hauntzer yesterday, but Svenskeren, a weak point, as you mentioned, Crumbs. We'll see if he can shore up some of that play individually. We've already seen some solid performances so far, but we want to know what your big plays are. So hit us up at LOL Esports with your favorites, and we'll highlight them at the end of the week. That will do it for us here, though. Time to send it over to Riv, Vedius, and Azael, who are standing by for the call. And as we go, Doublelift gives us some thoughts on TSM's group opponents.
Yeah, I'm not really scared of WE at all. I think Mystic is really highly praised, but definitely think I'm a lot better than him. And at MSI, TSM split games with WE, so that's kind of why I feel good that they split games with WE and Flash Wolves, and now I'm on the team, and I think we're a lot better. So, yeah, I guess we'll see if I can back it up.
A little bit more humble in his trash talk, but still feeling confident as Doublelift is and TSM nearing the top of that Group D.
I mean, I think Doublelift should be feeling very confident with how he looked yesterday. I thought he was incredible.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the games as we unfold the best of the best going head-to-head at the group stage here at Worlds 2017. I'm Rivington Bisson III, joined by Andrew Vedius Day and Isaac Azael Cummings Bentley. Gentlemen, we have quite a game on our hands in just a few minutes. The first fight of the day between Team WE and the NALCS champions TSM. as they are about to head to the stage for the second time here in the group stage.
Really exciting to see both these teams match up. And we got to start off with TSM, who are going to be repping, I believe, the blue side in game 1.
They absolutely will. Hauntzer going to be filling into that top lane as he did yesterday. Svenskeren in the jungle. Bjergsen roaming around in mid. Doublelift at bot with Biofrost as his support, and Coach Park for picks and bans.
And coming up on the red side, their opponents today are going to be Team WE. In the top lane, 957. Condi in the jungle has been crushing it. Xiye in the mid lane. Mystic and Ben going to be that bot and support with Coach Home.
And both of these teams we see have started group stage with that victory. But while Team WE were in full control against Misfits Gaming, TSM had a tougher time taking down Flash Wolves, as we saw.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, TSM had a real nail-biter of a game compared to WE's dominant victory over Misfits. Yes, they were going up against a harder opponent, but people had TSM as a favorite in this group, and we really saw that Flash Wolves came to play. It was a very tight game. A Hauntzer, though, came up huge. Doublelift, I think, played very well also on the Tristana, and that kind of allowed them to be able to buy time and go late and have them get to this point where they could take over in some late game team fights.
Yeah, it was really impressive to see Hauntzer step up on the international stage, because last year there was a lot of debate about whether or not how well he was holding up against many other top laners at the tournament, but it seems that he came in swinging. He wanted to prove something yesterday rather, and I think he did a fantastic job.
And we have to turn our attention as well to the other side of the rift. 2 wins here. Team WE dominating Misfits in their win. And you can easily look at that mid lane. Look at Xiye. The LeBlanc was unstoppable.
This guy, he had a fantastic performance. His early game might not have been the strongest, but very quickly he transitioned that into a very quick 7-0-0 scoreline. Roaming down to the bottom lane, finding pick after pick, getting a triple kill and a massive team fight that effectively won them the game. This guy just really stepped up in yesterday's performance, and I'm excited to see him match up against Bjergsen once more, just like they did back at MSI earlier in the year.
And I think it's going to tell us a lot about the state of the group, because we've already seen Flash Wolves can compete with TSM. That is a very capable team. How good is WE? Are they really, so dominant that they can look as good as they did against Misfits against TSM, or was it just a case of a weaker opponent? And that's what we're going to be able to find out.
And WE goes to play a Flash Wolves after this in their next game, so it kind of helped to have that momentum going in, knowing their takedown TSM, and that happened for TSM as well. This is going to be a big one. That focus for me kind of here is, as it was a little bit for the analyst, that's seeing if Svenskeren can shore up those weaknesses from yesterday, because Condi was a monster in the jungle.
I'm really excited to see him play today, because I feel like during the play-ins, and especially yesterday, he's been such a big part of the success of Team WE. Yeah. And when you compare that to the performance of Svenskeren, like we heard on the desk, I think that there's a bit of a mismatch going in favor of Condi. So Sven, he needs to find his form once again. I think he has the potential to do it. I think he has the power to match up against Condi, but right now he doesn't seem like the favorite.
And while the early game was concerning from Svenskeren somewhat, I think he did pick it up in the later stages game. He did perform well in team fights, and it was also a very good sign for TSM fans who are remembering back to last year's Worlds that the newer players are playing much better. Hauntzer and Biofrost, who I think struggled last year at Worlds to play to their level, are showing a much more promising first game against a tough opponent. So we're looking to see more of that from the North American team here.
Absolutely, and as we're about to get into Champion Select, we have to expect to see these late game scaling compositions. I'd actually be very surprised to see if one of these teams tries to go for the early aggression. And TSM winning under 30 isn't something we usually see. It's those late game extravagant team fights they always find themselves in. WE as well.
A lot of respect already being shown towards Condi. He did bring it out during the playing stages. This was the champion that allowed Condi to get 2 Baron steals back to back. And he's basically saying, okay, I realize I'm pretty good at this champion.
Yeah, it always feels good to draw respect, Dan. It kind of builds that confidence a little bit. It is going to be interesting to see if either of these teams are going to be focusing very many bans on the supports, trying to target those protective supports in the bot lane. Or if they're going to be just accepting, okay, it's a Janna for Lulu trade, or it's something like that, and focusing their bans elsewhere on the map.
Jarvan gets taken out from TSM side, as Team WE does not want to see that in the engages. A lot of that hard for sure engage, obviously coming out in picks and bans here, so you get through that early game safe and sound.
Now Sejuani still up and available for both these sides. Both the Janna and Lulu also been very popular throughout the group stages of Worlds so far, and already one will be taken off the board. So now this increases the value of Lulu. And Team WE, I feel like they should leave things like the Sejuani open because if TSM then go for the Lulu, they can answer it with another power pick of their own.
Well, I think what TSM is trying to do is make it one power pick for one power pick.
Exactly.
Because if you leave up the Janna in a situation like this, even if you take the Sejuani or the Lulu or whatever, then you're giving over something like the Tristana plus a support, or the Tristana plus the Sejuani, which is not the situation that they want to be in. So we'll see now where they're going to go as far as these Ardent supports. Obviously, there is Rakan, which is very high priority. There's still things such as Karma, even Nami, and along those lines. We'll see where Ben is going to look to go.
You got to split up the duo as well. Xayah towards the other side for Team WE. Wouldn't expect anything different.
I think TSM are fine with this though, because they're likely going to go for the Tristana and still have that all-in potential in the bottom lane with the Tristana-Rakan combo, which can be pretty effective against the champion like Xayah.
And Biofrost is actually extremely good on this champion. If you did watch the NA finals, you know that he can have standout performances as an engager on this champion, and certainly a comfort pick for him. Gragas, another comfort pick over for Condi, and would make a lot of sense picking up a front line, someone who can get proactive though in the early game. But it is going to be Sejuani.
Decides to switch it up at the last moment. And that would be Gragas possibly going in the hands now of TSM to round out what would be in the jungle. Don't have to pick just yet.
Had a great conversation with Frost earlier in the day, and she said that when it comes to the LPL, a champion like Xayah is something that the Chinese teams will pick to win their lane. They consider it to be the strongest AD carry in the current meta, and if they're going to pick it, they're looking for dominance. And after Mystic did have a great laning phase yesterday, he can also try and match the challenge that Doublelift issued him before the start of this draft.
Which would lead you to believe that they are going to go for more of an aggressive support.
You would hope.
Lane, you know, something more like a Karma and less like a Braum or something along those lines. Not that we've really been seeing the tanky defensive supports. This does make a lot of sense though. Tristana going over to Doublelift, another very big comfort pick for him. Something that he can usually survive lane on, and then really look to take over in the turret pushes, in the late game and mid game team fights.
It was also something that he had a great performance on yesterday. His damage numbers were ridiculous. I believe he was around 1.3k damage per minute. Absolute insane performance from him, and I'm excited to see what he can do with it today.
Oh, I was figuring switch to the Taric. I was thinking about that though, because you can always Featherstorm out of it. It's a bit of a weird Cosmic Radiance interaction, but still makes a very strong buff.
I mean, this is already drafting a very powerful team fighting composition here from WE. One thing I will say though is if you're looking to dominate lane, Taric is very rarely the champion to do it, and you would have to think that the Rakan and the Tristana, especially in combination with the Gragas, could perhaps provide some threat over onto the Taric. Because while people think of Taric as a tank support, when you're building Ardent Sensor, you really are not. You're extremely squishy and you're a melee champion, so you have to be very careful about your positioning, and sometimes it can be difficult to get involved.
Second phase of bans going through. The Gnar is taken away from Hauntzer on TSM, delivering the loss to Flash Wolves on that. Pretty devastating play from him. He will have to choose something else as Cassio is taken away from xiye on the side of TSM. 10 seconds left here for Team WE's final Phase 2 ban.
The next pick here is going to be very important for WE if they want to show what 957 is going to play, or if they're going to kind of save him for later and show xiye's pick here. Because either way, the strength from TSM in the solo lanes has been very prevalent. We know that Bjergsen and Hauntzer are able to play to dominate lane, and one of them will get to pick an advantageous matchup.
Syndra's as well, left up in that mid lane. Could go to the side of TSM, but he may as well take that away from xiye if it comes to it. LeBlanc still left up in that case with his 7-0 gameplay yesterday on that.
Yeah, we also still have Orianna on the table. Something like that can fit in very well with a comp to buff up Doublelift to protect him. Gives you the wave clear, gives you the team fight. Yeah, that can be delivered as we saw to great effect via Wolf and FLICKR.
And there's the Syndra actually picked up. The LeBlanc was chosen to be banned by TSM. So good power in the mid lane for xiye. Game-changing power as well you can get from Syndra.
So now TSM, they might be looking for a little bit more utility because they've got plenty of engage coming out from the Rakan and the Gragas. They have the option to put Hauntzer either on a tank in the form of something like a Cho'Gath or a Maokai, or they could go for something like a bit more of a carry. He did have a great game on Gnar. Obviously being respected by Team WE will force TSM to go a little bit more meta, a little bit more standard with what they go in the top. But now will Bjergsen try and get himself a counter? Will he go for something like the Echo and be a little bit more adventurous, or will he go for something standard like the Corki?
I'm guessing we are going to see something like the Corki or the Orianna. I think it fits very well into the composition that they're already drafting. You have a big frontliner. You have the consistent damage coming out from Doublelift on the Tristana, and the Corki, I think, makes a lot of sense in the context of this lane. It's also, as far as itemization, when you're going against a magic damage dealing jungler as well as the Syndra, building into something early like a Hex Drinker can give you a lot of safety through the laning phase.
Now, I feel like that there's a good possibility of something a little bit interesting coming out from Team WE. I was hoping for it, but it looks like they're just going to stick random with Shen. No. So the big thing about Shen is that he can actually be pretty aggressive during the laning phase, especially during the early levels. But one of the big criticisms we've had of Shen this tournament is teams utilizing the ultimate once he hits level 6, especially thinking back to G2's game. They did not take full advantage of using Shen's ability to move around the map.
You need to be proactive with Shen to get the most out of his kit. It's so much easier to actually get an effective stand united when you are the one setting up the play, when you're roaming 5-man bot, when you're ulting in on your jungler and creating these tower dives, creating these plays. Because if you're just going to have a Shen sit and farm in a lane against Cho'Gath, Cho'Gath will outscale you and be more useful in the 5v5 team fight. So it's about side lane control, it's about proactivity, and we'll see if WE is going to be able to pull that off in the early stages of the game.
Looking at the entire draft, though, from Team WE, I think that even in the late game, their team fighting is pretty good, thanks to the Spirit's Refuge and the fact that they're playing up against 2 AD carries. Placed at the right time, combined with the Taric ultimate as well, you can get these really drawn-out fights that can allow Syndra, allow the Xayah to just chunk through the front line of the Gragas and the Cho'Gath, and then make their way towards these squishy backline carries. But in terms of engage, everything going in favor of TSM.
And that's what you really have to remember, because while the Taric can put this down, if you're being proactive, if you're choosing the initiation, you drop that Cosmic Radiance, you drop your ultimate, you go forward. But when you're getting engaged on by a Rakan, by a Gragas, if you're getting split up, if you're getting burst down, by the Feast from the Cho'Gath, by the double marksman damage, that can be very, very difficult to deal with.
On the Rift. Group D will find a 2-0 placement holder after this matchup, be it TSM or Team WE. One team has to walk away with a loss here, and who will sit atop Group D? We find out shortly.
Another concern that I have when I'm looking at Team WE's composition is that no one on the top side of the map is actually going to force Hauntzer into building any armor. So if you build into early magic resistance, if you want to go for something like an Abyssal or a Spirit Visage early on, as well as the Mercury Treads, you're really going to be very difficult to kill from the Shen, from the Sejuani, from the Syndra as well. Like, it's so easy to itemize.
It depends as well whether or not they want a little bit more in terms of engage, because we did see Righteous Glory rushes from a few Cho'Gaths as well, and that was just good facilitating, being like, oh, okay, we actually feel really strong around the mid game. We feel like we want to try and force a couple fights, and it very much depends on what Hauntzer wants to try and do. I think that it makes a lot of sense prioritizing early magic resistance, but TSM could say, you know what, we have the Trinity Force from the Corki, we have a Tristana who does a fair amount of early game damage as well. Like, maybe they just want to be a little bit more active in the early.
Yeah, and if you're not feeling the threat of those kills anyway, then you can just skip that, right? Because Shen is not going to put on a lot of solo kill pressure regardless, so if you're confident in the vision that is being provided here from Svenskeren, if you're confident in your ability to survive those ganks, then you don't have to be as worried, and that's when it comes back again to those junglers.
Yep, we'll see Sven starting both on the bottom side, going toward the top. They'll have their double buffs, but looking at those summoner spells, not recently have we seen the Ignite coming in for those bot lanes, and Doublelift and Biofrost have that kill pressure here. May be able to start that little bit of early aggression in the bot lane if they choose to do so.
And I'm really excited to see how these two teams match up, because thinking back to how these two teams played yesterday, TSM, they did have a very long, drawn-out back and forth going up against Flash Wolves, whereas for WE, they were just very quick and very dominant in how they dismantled Misfits.
Yeah, they certainly were. And I think it's going to be a very different game this time around than what WE had against Misfits.
For sure.
I think that they are going to be in tough, but we certainly have seen that TSM can be challenged and really put to the limit in these groups. But the fact of the matter is, to me, teams have not closed games very well.
Agreed.
And if Flash Wolves had actually closed out that game properly with the advantages that they had, you feel like they were the team that should have won.
And that's one of the big concerns that TSM may have, given that WE have demonstrated they can get these early leads, and they're very effective at closing them. But
Bjergsen roaming.
Good hit on xiye, stops him from getting to Svenskeren and Condi. That's the slow on to Condi. Should be able to dash out of this one as well. Svenskeren trying to get that gap closer in. Bot lane is pushing, so TSM on all fronts is getting WE to their turrets.
Both junglers do have Smite there as well, and Bjergsen is trying to push up to be able to actually join if this fight continues. Hauntzer has actually roamed down here as well, so TSM putting a lot of pressure onto Condi. They're trying to support Svenskeren and get him off to an early game start.
Looks like right now TSM have all the advantages.
Wow!
Oh,
absolutely amazing. He's going to live throughout that one, though. Just enough HP to survive the red buff tick.
Hauntzer using the blast cone just off screen to get as close as possible to Condi. He was ready to flash. He was ready to go in and get that kill. But unfortunately, it was not there fast enough. So Condi is able to walk away with his life.
But Hauntzer really didn't lose anything. He had actually had the push on top side, so he shoved in the wave, makes this roam. It also means that Condi is going to lose his Krugs here too. So that's 2 camps that go the way of Svenskeren. It's pressure on the top side, and this is Shen without a taunt here.
Just outside of turret range, able to deliver to that. Svenskeren wins the jungle. Svenskeren helps win top lane, having a much better start to his game this time around.
I think that was a bit of a misplay there from 957, using the taunt, knowing that the top side of the jungle did not belong to Team WE, is now going to force him to use his flash and going to give a little bit more pressure over to Hauntzer. So this early game matchup that often can go heavily in the favor of the Shen is now being pushed back due to the lack of respect from 957.
It also gives a lot of information to TSM because they cleared the top side of the jungle. They know the only place that Condi could be is on the bot side, so we'll see how much respect TSM is giving over to that. They already have a couple wards in the river, one by mid lane that I believe did spot the pink ward as it went down, as well as another in the river brush. So we'll see if Doublelift and Biofrost are able to stay safe.
Still got to keep an eye on Condi. I feel like this hasn't really hurt him too much. As soon as WE is able to start making moves, they do not stop, and Condi's usually on the front line of that. A little aggression with the dazzle towards Doublelift, buffered rocket jump to safety as Team WE gets a little bit of lane control here as their minion wave pushing.
Mystic and Ben doing a good job of applying pressure in the 2 versus 2, but you can see that there's a big minion wave stacking right now. Doublelift should have the farm advantage, and that's very much what you'd expect from a Tristana Rakan lane. We talked during the draft how a lot of the LPL teams consider Xayah to be the strongest AD carry in terms of the 2 versus 2, and a very limited number of champions that can really match her. But when you pair her up with a Taric, it's much harder to have that same kind of pressure, which is where this deficit is coming.
Certainly the case, but either way, it is such a powerful team fighter that you're willing to kind of sometimes make that sacrifice, and it's one of the reasons that we're seeing the rise in popularity here from the Taric because of how good it is in the later stages of the game. When you have a high amount of CDR, the cooldown is so low on your ultimate, and you can continually reset fights with that.
Still pretty quiet on the home front, 6 minutes in. Condi able to stave off what was happening in the jungle, didn't lose his flash, now able to get a few deep wards in. And this could set Team WE up for their own engagements, for their own starts as the waves are pushing back towards TSM here.
We can also see Mountain Drake spawned on the bottom side, likely to be one of the higher priority Drakes that are available, but right now neither team really focusing on the bot side. Looks like Team WE, their eyes are on the top. No TP on Hauntzer, only level 5, but he think he reads the play.
Yeah, I think he has read this play. They're calling the missing from mid lane. The problem is he has to actually back up, and while they are calling out the play, he will be able to go back and farm with the CS. But I was going to say, if they're trying to zone him off that turret, sometimes even just applying the pressure can cause you to lose the experience, lose the farm, which can make the plays worthwhile.
A lot of pings, and that Scryer's Bloom shot towards the blue buff area. You see like TSM's going to get their own deep wards in here and see if they can try to deny a few resources and get maybe some pressure on this first Mountain Drake, if anything comes of it.
And it looks like before that they're thinking about trying to contest this blue buff. They have to remember though, this is a level 6 Shen. Hauntzer does not have TP, so this is not really a play that I think TSM is set up to be able to make. When Stand United is available, when TP is available, you have to play respectful of that Shen. Because if Hauntzer doesn't have insight to actually interrupt, then you can't really go for those sort of plays.
Seeing Hauntzer up in that top lane. He has too much, if any, stacks just yet. Hasn't decided to chomp down. He's still holding off as he might make his way into the jungle and make that his first as a red buff respawns here for Team WE.
Looks like he is working towards that righteous story. We were talking about itemization earlier on. TSM saying, you know what, we want that additional bit of engage from the top side of the map, but for now their focus is on this top side where they had control around the spawning of the red buff. They've already got this deep vision down. The problem for them is that Bjergsen is pushed underneath this turret, but yeah, okay. he's a Cho'Gath. It's very easy for him to steal away the camp. So good job, Hauntzer.
And it's not only just a stolen camp, that's a red buff, which really does make it a lot more difficult to lane against this guy. It's the damage from the true damage, the slow, and as well as a lot of HP regen, which is such a big part if you're trying to trade aggressively. And while Hauntzer is not really defensively itemizing himself against this magic damage, you can see that Bjergsen is looking like he wants to pick up a Hex Shrinker and maybe even then go towards a Phage, which is pretty defensive on the side of this Corki. If he doesn't complete it, could change things up and try to just sit on that Null Magic Mantle, but it's actually Doublelift roaming up, and Rakan, I believe Biofrost is heading towards mid lane here as well. They may be trying to set up a 3-man play.
You can see the pings coming out from Team WE. They recognize that Doublelift is missing. They're afraid of the potential Biofrost roam as well, and xiye showing a lot of respect towards TSM, and I think it's worth highlighting xiye. He's considered very much the father figure of this team, one of the older players on the roster. He's been playing League of Legends for a long time, but really only came into the scene fairly recently, and the fact that Team WE, they have been growing this roster over a long period of time. This year was the first time that they were able to win a split, and it is also the first time that Team WE have returned to the world stage since 2012, and they're looking to make a bit more of a name for themselves.
Quick hit, Cosmic. No, just the Bastion goes down, and the heal on to Ben. They stay alive for that one. Level 6s are there. Doublelift has used his, and Biofrost is going to hold.
And you know that TSM did not fully commit to that, so they get a really good chunk, no Ignite used, no ultimate from Biofrost used. They don't jump forward because they know the Shen Stand United would come through and turn around that play.
And the TP was unavailable from Hauntzer, so there's no way for him to match to help support the bottom lane out. Like the respect from TSM's duo for the time being, but now there's going to be a battle for this Drake.
Will missing from Biofrost. They get out Svenskeren's flash, making sure he's still there to fight the bigger fight here, that war for the dragon. They're going to have to be looped down to the bottom side, which leaves Bjergsen on the top here. It doesn't look like anybody's going to get anything out of this dragon just yet.
Yeah, TSM wants to continue trying to push up these waves. They're trying to buy time for Hauntzer's TP to come back, which it has. So now if they can get good buys off, they would be able to try to contest for one of these dragons. Both junglers are down around bot side though, but Condi has made his way to lane faster, and a pick here could mean that objective goes over to WE.
Slow play. You can see Team WE and TSM playing the somebody's here but not really. Go aggressive on us. We want to get that counter, and that's in both of their minds. That's why we're seeing the stalemate. Condi may be making the first move though.
A lot of respect being given between these two teams, and both a lot of confidence as well in their late game play. Neither of these teams are feeling the pressure to make any early moves because they feel like they are the ones that are going to have the advantages in the later side. But Condi feels like he's getting a little bit antsy. He is spending a ton of time here on the bottom side.
So hard to take this lane out. A buffered rocket jump from Doublelift. Biofrost able to dance back and just get the safety in. It would be extravagant if they were able to pull it off, but I believe Team WE still could if they went for it. TSM stays safe for now, and again, more farming.
And they're able to get their buys off. I mean, Bjergsen's out on the map with the package. He has his Hex Shrinker now too, but taking a lot of poke there, and Svenskeren has been able to establish a farm advantage. That's where a fair bit of their gold lead has come from, simply because Condi was really trying to make these ganks happen. Whoa.
Nice little dodge out. That actually relieves quite a bit of pressure for this dragon if something else can happen, if a flash is now blown in favor of TSM.
Condi just trying to send out a message, being like, I am around, I have control over the river. But it will, as you rightly said, Riv, it will alleviate a bit of pressure now from TSM. They're not as afraid of that jungle gang from Condi because that big ultimate is unavailable. So bit of pressure swing now back in the favor of TSM, but again, a lot of praise for TSM for respecting that Shen. You can see Team WE trying their best to utilize that ultimate, but Hauntzer always pushing the Shen underneath the tower. He's got to a point where he has plenty of wave clear and the Shen cannot match it. Now that he's picked up the Tiamat, it'll be a little bit easier, but Team WE, they're trying their hardest to utilize 957 and bring him to the rest of the map.
And while TSM pulled back last time the blue buff contest was available, this time they are confident to go for it. You can see Hauntzer has backed off. He's actually farming the jungle so that he could not be interrupted if he tries the TP in here. But xiye is able to pull it away, and nicely comboed actually
Syndra. Super obnoxious, able to just pick up those jungle creeps and walk off with them. The invade, the strategy, and the setup from TSM was good, but you got outplayed by those.
See when this opening could be. A few turrets in favor of TSM could unlock the Corki and the Doublelift at the right time, the Corki and the Tristana at the right time. Same thing for WE though. Xiye coming online, getting a few items for himself as he unleashes that power. We could easily see a Bjergsen or a Doublelift going down.
And this is one of those games where when both teams are playing this passively for so long, sometimes you kind of lose track of how much damage your opponents are going to be dealing in the team fights because you haven't really been fighting. You haven't had this progressive ramp up. It's just all of a sudden you're fighting someone with a completed item, and those first fights can decide the games in these types of situations.
Slow play as TSM tries to grab a little bit more control around the map, taking it accordingly as Team WE gets a chance to back, put a few more items in. Xiye chooses the Merc Shreds to keep himself moving around and dishing out a bit more damage.
Now, this may very well be a little bit boring to watch. It is the expectation of what the current meta is, but I think it's really important to highlight what this will also give birth to. Exactly. There's going to be a lot of very impressive team fights that are on, because something that TSM have been working on this year is more of a defensive early game, transitioning into a stronger mid to late game team, and trying to improve their decision making and their team fighting ability. The thing that Team WE are famous for is their team fighting prowess and individual talent when it comes to those 5v5 skirmishes. That's why they are considered the very different, really the top team in China, because nobody else plays like they do, and they were able to demonstrate that earlier in the year at MSI. So both these teams, they've got their team fight compositions, they're teams that are specialized in improving their team fights, and that's just going to make these team fights so much more exciting later into the game.
And where do you think we get that team fight? Seems like TSM is rarely going to forget there's a Stand United coming. Maybe kind of face-checking a brush, dodging out though, and they'll be able to get some vision, but how can we see this happening maybe at the Dragon?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think it could be around Dragon, and it might very well be right now. We'll see if Svenskeren is able to get away. The Stand United's coming in.
Flash on Svenskeren. This is the same thing that happened right behind Red when they went for Dragon the first time. Could he be going down? Battle Dance in. The saves are there. And Svenskeren's going to live. No! Unleash power just to range. Xiye picks up first blood.
Doublelift is coming up though. They have Hauntzer actually continuing to push on the top side, so we'll see if WE tries to extend this advantage and go for the Mountain Dragon.
But just like yesterday, it's Svenskeren that ends up going down. He sticks around a little too long. He doesn't pay enough respect, and Team WE are quick to punish. Condi with the setup, the Shen follow up as well. They find first blood, and now their eyes are on Hauntzer.
It's been a slow rinse and repeat for Team WE in the same area, denying TSM the blue buff, denying TSM that range. They held off for Condi's ult to come back, and again go for the same play. Hauntzer now being routed out of Team WE's jungle, and Bjergsen will be there for safe passage.
Hauntzer did get a ton of damage though off in that top lane. They're actually going for an all-in on the bot side.
Quill, he's got Benzai, but they want the kill here, and Mystic looks like he can get it on Biofrost. They get a little bit of a heal back as Doublelift wants to step forward. There's the barrier that comes out as Ignite has already been used, and the Buster shot gets a Feather Storm.
Still a good trade there for TSM. They get the ultimate, they get two summoners down, and this is Svenskeren moving forward, getting Condi. Wanted to hold on to that flash, but once he's already hit by one stun, he flashes. Nice aim there from Condi to actually attach with the next. The Stand United was then coming in. They use the Taric ultimate aggressively here to enable this tower dive. Xiye simply stepping forward and unleashing the power.
And know how Hauntzer, he just stayed top lane. He realized that there was no point in him TPing in to try and assist his team. His focus was on that top tower. But with the bottom lane of Team WE trying to go for that skirmish against Double and Bio earlier on, they were forced back, and then after Svenskeren respawns, he knows that he can just transition to the bot lane and pick up that first neutral objective. So TSM, they did lose first blood, but overall in the objective game, they're the ones that come out ahead.
And they're still up in gold. You can very easily see that top lane turret go down pretty quickly here too. That first turret gold would be worth quite a lot for TSM if they can get that advantage. Or if they even want to try to do something like a lane swap or even just roam Bjergsen up to the top lane to try to knock that down. It is very low, and Bjergsen is at a very strong point in the game now, having completed his Trinity Force. He is ready to make these sort of moves, which could simply be a package up to the top side.
It's that hit we were talking about, Doublelift as well, Infinity Edge coming online as these guys hit next level. Clear here for Bjergsen in the mid lane. He may be able to roam down, but he may find WE coming from that bottom side before he gets himself to safety.
And
Does not look like Condi's going in.
I think both these teams are going to be looking to try and set up their AD carries for success because, as we said earlier in the day, we heard from Doublelift that he was very much about, he believes that he is stronger than Mystic, especially after seeing his performance. And now we're seeing the bottom lane set up. but nothing's going to happen.
So in and out. Makes you want to pull your hair out.
So this, again, the reason that TSM is not going forward is because they're respecting the fact that Stand United could be available. It's not up for another second or two, but they didn't have the exact timing. And Bjergsen is able to make that roam that I just talked about. Just uses the package speed, goes up the top side, knocks down the first turret, and this is making it even harder for 957. And I would say that TSM has done a good job of actually neutralizing the early game advantage of that Shen, not allowing him to really get too much done with these Stand Uniteds.
Looking at a CS lead in that top lane, in that mid lane, and pretty much even out of the bot lane here as we're looking for those turrets to go down. A little bit of a setup here for Team WE. They got quite a bit of time before that next Mountain Drake, but it is going to be those Drakes that teams will want to get these structures down, those objectives down.
And you're seeing WE more and more set up in these bushes. They're waiting for TSM to extend a little bit too far. And if someone from TSM does step forward into one of these unwarded bushes, they will be pounced on, they will be taken out. So TSM is playing with a lot of respect, and you can see Svenskeren was actually ulted by xiye, knocked very low, but does survive.
And I think Team WE, their eyes are on this tier 1 tower in the bottom lane right now. And because TSM understand the rough positioning of Condi, they're immediately going to answer. So both these teams going back and forth, but TSM are always the team that are coming out ahead in terms of the objectives.
Yeah, I mean, Biofrost is actually left lane. He just faced. He's going towards mid, so they've made the call to actually give up this bot side turret. They're going to try to trade it for the Rift Herald and then perhaps get a lot of pressure down on mid lane immediately with that. You can see that Biofrost is heading up there. Doublelift is going to go bot side to catch the wave, but TSM is very clearly looking to answer on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I think this is fine for TSM because their eyes will be to take down that mid tier 1 as well. Against the Syndra, it's pretty difficult to siege. You always got to be respectful of the pick power that she has with the stun. And she has a fair amount of wave clear. So with the Rift Herald, they have that extra bit of clear needed to chunk out and open up the map that much more.
It is going to take a moment longer as well. TSM backs, which means Team WE are going to get these waves pushed a few times. Then they can set up the Rift Herald from TSM side. But I'm sure WE will be ready for it. We haven't seen too many forward wards being placed by either team, though. A lot of action just around that dragon and in the lanes. So somebody could get in trouble trying to get these wards placed. Here you see TSM's getting cleared out.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to make some incursions into each other's red side jungle, but haven't been able to get any full control over their opponent's jungle. Both teams playing with a lot of respect, and both teams extremely evenly matched so far. And it's really going to come down, I think, a lot to the engages from TSM. Can they find those great engages with the Rakan, with this Gragas, or will WE be able to utilize that Taric ultimate to really get a lot of damage done?
And I think those item spikes are going to be one of the biggest determining factors as to when those engages come out, because TSM, they're waiting for this opportunity. Bjergsen coming from the flank.
He's going to meet xiye on the right side. Cosmic Radiance goes down. Doublelift forces the flash out of that one. Actually quite low to start. Gets Condi back. He throws the ultimate down, and that's only going to hit Svenskeren. That could be the kill that WE needs, though, to gain control of this jungle. Biofrost gets unleashed on as well, and it's 2 kills coming in for WE.
And it's TSM trying to go for the engage, but it's Team WE to come out with the team fight win. Fantastic punish from Condi, expecting the flash from Svenskeren and still able to land the ultimate. They get themselves 2 kills, and now they're looking for more.
And we talked about the engages there, and Biofrost completely whiffed his grand entrance. He was not able to hit anyone with that RW combo, and does get taken out on the exit as well. So TSM losing a lot there, losing multiple flashes as well as those kills, and they are going to lose the top side turret here.
WE knowing when they could attack, figuring there was just the amount. Ooh, another shot from Bjergsen. I was going to say just the right amount of people there to fight, but Bjergsen knew just the right amount of damage for xiye in mid.
The one man you can always count on in the mid lane is Bjergsen. We hyped up xiye at the start of the game, but you can never count this superstar out. Finding the solo kill down, now being able to utilize the Rift Herald as well. TSM, they're going to get themselves a turret.
And this is Bjergsen seeing that xiye had his flash down, capitalizing, getting something back for them. And they will knock down that mid lane turret while Doublelift is pressuring on the top side. So this is really a big swing back for TSM and helps them even the game right back out.
And such a big mistake from xiye as well. He is one of the leaders of the team. He is one of the experienced players that a lot of the young players look up to and rely on. And if he falls down to Bjergsen, you have to wonder how that affects their confidence, because they've been finding a lot of successful fights, but this game is still very even. TSM are the ones that have control over the towers, and TSM have control of the Mountain Drake. But let's see how this fight actually breaks down.
Yeah, and here's the play again. Bjergsen simply flashing over that Q, knowing that the Summoner is not available from xiye from the earlier skirmish, gets them the kill, gets them mid lane control and that tower, and now they get their second Mountain Dragon. So the threat of a Baron rush becomes so real. With that second Mountain Dragon going over to TSM means they're going to be able to burn this down very quickly, and WE will always have to make a concerted effort to keep vision around the Baron at all times.
Yeah, Cho'Gath as well, you always have to respect it. Look at Bjergsen once again.
Right after his Hex Drinker Triforce, getting that BF sword, looking for even more damage. Pickaxe after that, and I can pretty much know what's coming into his inventory with that Infinity Edge.
Yeah, Bjergsen is off to a really good point. Doublelift quietly has been farming away. Mystic is outpacing him because of the kills, because of the additional CS that he has been able to pick up. Thankfully, because of the pressure they put bot side, and WE is going to be looking to go mid lane to try to answer this turret back. So we'll see if TSM will be ready.
A few pings towards the bot. Hauntzer is trying to seek out 957 as he was roaming up, saying, I can't stop that TP, I can't stop the Stand United. They're back buddy-buddy system on the bot side as they farm it out. Just about 30 more CS for Hauntzer, but both TPs are up, and we could see some big action here coming around the Baron.
I'm really excited to see how things play out moving forward, because Mystic is at this point in the game where he's had so much praise. His team fighting prowess is really where he's able to shine. He's considered by many analysts the best AD carry in China, but here's the engage.
Oh, straight through. Biofrost trying to charm up the entire team. WE, and he's got a few. It looks like they got the number on Ben as well. Goes down a double kill for Bjergsen, and now they're going to be looking for Condi, one of the tankiest members. They drop him, and Baron is in the eyes of TSM. It might already be.
That ultimate from Svenskeren was incredible. He split Ben up from xiye, denying the Taric ultimate from coming through, allows them to get Syndra. They are teaming in, and they're going to secure this with the Gragas. TSM is looking to get a stranglehold on this game.
Gragas and the Cho'Gath. Condi can't even make it close. Beautiful job by TSM by holding off on the damage and making sure Condi is at range. Baron grab 25 minutes in by TSM.
TSM find the first significant lead in this game. Team WE, they get caught unawares. They make an uncharacteristic mistake, and they don't respect the engage from Biofrost. Keep your eyes on how this setup starts. Biofrost comes in, gets a great two-man knockup along with the charm, and then the Gragas ultimate from Svenskeren, splitting up the team, allowing the rest of TSM to just shred through the lineup of Team WE. Condi, he's famous for his Baron steals, but TSM know that, and they don't allow him to take it away.
And Hauntzer getting a lot of damage down on WE. You can see he knocks 957 out, then TP'd in to secure the Baron. So very well played here from Hauntzer. Not only is he kind of outscaling his opponent, he's already on 7 stacks, he's up a lot of farm, and the Cho'Gath is going to be a menace in these team fights and be pivotal in helping to burst people down before the Taric ultimate completes.
It's absolutely ridiculous to take into consideration how much happened off the ball there for Hauntzer when we were watching the fight. It could have gone much different. 2 Ocean Drakes now to that. Bjergsen on Corki and Doublelift on Tristana. The Demolition team is going to be wiping down these turrets if they get a moment at them. And now they have a bit of siege power to do it with.
Yesterday was all the Hauntzer show. Doublelift was the one that got the game-winning play, but today Bjergsen is the individual that is stepping up. We talked about how it was all going to come down to these late-game team fights and how the engages from TSM would be pivotal if they wanted to be the ones to come out ahead. Biofrost was able to find it. Bjergsen was able to find the follow-up damage, and now they have the Baron buff. They've got their eyes on the base of Team WE.
And while TSM does want to threaten these turrets, I don't think that they want a concerted fight. Doublelift has not purchased in quite a long time. You can see that the BF Sword plus pickaxe advantage goes over to Mystic, so he has quite a bit of gold in his pockets. And you know, they want to have him buy up before they actually commit to that fight. And it seems like Doublelift is just trying to stay out on the map, get to a full completed second Zeal item, then go for the base, hit 3 items, and look to fight right with that power spike.
Like they won't go for the full push here, knowing Team WE will have time to respond, but now TSM can take another look at the map and figure out exactly what they want to do with this buff. Hauntzer has just about all the time in the world, and by the time he gets to that point in what would be the top lane, if they go bottom, he'll have teleport again.
Now the big thing here that's concerning for Team WE is historically when they fall behind, they tend to be a lot more reserved. They tend to pull back a lot more, and they wait for their opposition to make that kind of a mistake. But what we've been seeing from TSM is, especially in the late game, they're so much clearer in their decision making. They know how to be able to siege onto these towers and break into their opposition's base. So if Team WE don't look to try and catch TSM off guard, don't look to try and make this play, TSM are just going to slowly and gradually work their way into the base of Team WE and bleed them out of this game.
And WE does have their opportunities to go for those aggressive plays. Mystic has completed his very expensive 3 items. He's on the IE plus the Essence Reaver, and he has his Rapid Fire. He's at a point where he can take over a team fight, certainly if he's given the freedom to do so. If they find that right Taric ult with the engage, give him that free firing time in the backline, he will make TSM pay.
So one of the interesting things of that, Rakan versus Taric. You get the Charmin, the Cosmic Radiance comes in when everybody has half HP, and then you don't feel as strong to fight after it wears off. Biofrost will get in there with the engages. Ben is having a hard time to save the team. However, it can go very wrong very quick here. You know, Team WE can still bite back quite strong. Good items on xiye, Condi, and 957. A ton of crowd control to lock up these fights, and if Mystic and Ben place or position correctly, it turns right back around.
And now both teams are going to be eyeing up that Baron once more, because it gets a little bit harder for TSM to siege onto the base of Team WE. They always have to respect the engage power of Sejuani and the Syndra, but the majority of the map still belongs to TSM. They're the ones that have a lot of vision control throughout the entire river, and they'll be able to pick up another Ocean Trade thanks to that control.
And that is why the vision control is so important in a game like this, because of the powerful engage from TSM. If WE loses vision control in one side of their jungle, they can no longer enter because of the threat coming out of Biofrost and Svenskeren to immediately jump on them and start one of those fights that they aren't prepared for.
Over at what the buddy system is here. It is Bjergsen gets the Knight's Vow from Svenskeren. Can obviously change it whenever he wants to, but Bjergsen with the pack wanting to go in these fights. It's nice to actually have that on him. You can see Mystics coming in there from 957.
And looking at some of the extra itemization as well, Svenskeren getting a relatively early locket, which is going to be huge against a champion like Syndra. The amount of burst that it can mitigate can be really effective, on top of the fact that Mystic, we're keeping our eyes on him and in the amount of damage that he can output, but some of the shielding that is available on TSM is going to make that burst so much harder to put on.
It really is, and especially when you pair that locket along with the redemption, it buys time for the redemption to actually be able to come down, which can be a game-turning point.
You get to figure out if it's yours or the enemy team's. Do I run out or do I run in? The split-second decisions, the executive decisions here 30 minutes in, trying to be made by TSM and both Team WE. Looking at just about a minute on Baron. Expect the wards to go down and expect them to be heavily protected at this point in time.
And the one thing we do have to say is Team WE, they weren't really able to utilize the Shen this game. You have to give a lot of credit to TSM preventing them from trying, because we did see Team WE attempt a lot in the early game to take advantage of it, but it just became harder and harder, and now we're at a point where the Cho'Gath just has so much more value in a lot of these fights.
And this is something I like to talk about, where it's not thinking about your win conditions, it's thinking about what are your opponent's win conditions, right? And TSM in the early game did a very good job of saying, how does WE beat us this game? Well, they're proactive. They find ways to get the Shen involved early before the Cho'Gath can scale, before the Cho'Gath can overtake him in power, so they don't give that to their opponents. They say, you know what, if you could be over there, we won't go there. We'll play very defensively. We'll ward very defensively. We'll allow ourselves to give up some vision early and get to a very strong point where you can then start to take over the map.
And they actually handled it quite well. The question was, would Svenskeren be a part of that? And he was actually a very big part of it, pushing Condi out. Team WE staving off that early aggression as it happened. We saw the first blood coming to them, onto TSM, onto Svenskeren as he got caught. Now it seems TSM back in favor with the Baron, back in favor with this lane control, and Team WE is still looking for a way into this fight.
It's a very frightening point in the game, too, when Hauntzer is almost full build. I mean, he's already 4 fully completed items. Just has that 1 slot for pink wards. He's going to do a massive amount of damage to anyone in the front line, so Ben has to be even better with the Taric ultimate to make sure it comes down in time.
Gotta watch how much they focus on Condi right away, but same thing for Team WE. Look at Hauntzer as they open up the side to the rest of TSM. They feel like the fight is good with 957 in the front, but they pull off knowing they got a bit of a hit on that Hauntzer's Cho'Gath.
Initially, that looked quite scary for Team WE because Hauntzer was just sitting in that brush, waiting for the opportune flank. But the moment the Shen ultimate came down onto xiye, TSM just disengaged. They're like, there's no need for us to hard commit to this. There's no need to try and force a fight. And that's going to be a big ultimate that's now unavailable for Team W.
And especially when TSM had the top wave shoved in, right? They already know that 957 was missing out on minions, and he's actually pretty nervous. You can see he doesn't even want to finish off the full minion wave. He's not sure that the TP would get him there in time for a fight, so he's roaming down to join. And when he can force a Shen to group with his team against the Cho'Gath, he's always going to be disadvantaged.
Hauntzer is hungry. 9 stacks, no champions, and he's looking for some dinner. 3-3 here. Team WE. Featherstorm start from Mystic. Cosmic Radiance goes down. It's going to get just a few of the members. Xiye's on the backside, unprotected, and that may be the focus. Hauntzer hits him. The entire team collapses. Xiye's down. Ben tries to run out here. Mystic on the top side. Beautiful damage coming in from him. The focus is perfect. Svenskeren low. Biofrost goes in for another attack. Featherstorm hits the resets. But Doublelift has found the resets. And he says, here we go, TSM.
TSM find themselves the ace. They rip through Team WE, and they have their eyes on the base to get themselves another win.
And they will be able to at least get the inhibitor here. We'll see if they can get the inhibitor, then go back for the Baron, because the minion wave is not yet here. So this will take them some time. And we'll see if they decide to try to go for Nexus first or retreat back to the Baron. The Baron would certainly be the safer option here, but they might want to try to risk it.
Look at those death timers though. Doublelift and Bjergsen just shred through these towers. I don't think Team WE are going to respond in time, and I think TSM are going to take first in the group.
They have a Corki, they have a Tristana, they're the demolition team, and TSM will sit atop of Group D, 2-0, starting off the 2017 Worlds Group Stages.
TSM demonstrating that they can match the team fighting of the LPL squads. Team WE praised so much for their ability to fight, but it was always TSM finding the great fights for them, utilizing the Rakan to set up the engages, playing around the map very patiently, and as you rightly said, Azelle, just respecting the win conditions of their opposition to get a very clean game overall.
And I think that TSM showed an excellent understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of that Taric. The way that they actually played their 2 major team fights, Svenskeren splitting up Ben and xiye in the earlier team fight, which allows them to win that and get Baron. Then the second team fight, putting just enough pressure without committing forward. Rakan had never used an ultimate. No summoners had been actually deployed, and they get Ben to drop the Taric ultimate defensively. They back up, they absorb the damage. As soon as it expires, they go forward for the kill.
And much difference on the clock for TSM here. 53 minutes now to 34 minutes, showing that they can tone that down and they can play a bit of WE style, not letting them get to a point where they're just too big.
I mean, I feel like the biggest difference between this game and yesterday's game is Flash Wolves were very proactive yesterday in the early game. Right. TSM did not want to allow that to happen, and it was very slow, very even up until the 20-25 minute mark, but then it all came down to Bjergsen at the end of the day. He found that one pick onto xiye. They were the team to get that first mid tower, and once that was gone, the map was open for TSM to have full control of the game.
Well, there's more games to go today, so let's head over to the analysts to get their thoughts on how TSM picked up that win.
And thank you very much, Rivington. TSM grabbing control of Group D, now moving to 2-0. In just a bit, we'll hear from the man in the mid lane. Before we do that, we're going to take a moment to break it down here. Let's talk draft. Who got the better end of the deal this time around?
I absolutely hated Team WE's draft. I thought TSM outplayed them massively from the very first pick. So by prioritizing Rakan and picking it first, it automatically meant that Team WE were going to be pigeonholed into grabbing Xayah. You have to separate that combo, but then that also meant that you gave Doublelift to Tristana. Then you add in the Syndra, the Shen, and I'm just like, who is Syndra ever supposed to kill at any point in this game?
And it really looks like TSM has already set their sights on the composition style that they like. You have strong solo lanes, and you have the safe, your backup with your Tristana hitting that late game that can always come up into the very end. But the early and mid game, the solo lanes from Hauntzer and Bjergsen were just killing it. Hauntzer specifically, almost getting a solo turret by himself, but so much pressure on the map that World Elite had to respond and just bought so much time for everybody else.
And you can use this composition that World Elite drafted effectively, but that was not the case in this game, right? We saw previously where TSM played against Flash Wolves, the Sejuani plus the Taric combination, where they force the engage during the Taric ultimate, so they utilize that time window effectively, and they're able to stick on those priority targets. However, when WE were doing it, they weren't able to stick on the priority targets because Sven had some good disengages, but also the other part that they drafted there, that like kind of the curveball at the end, the Shen, did not gain them any ground. In fact, it was very detrimental to them because into Cho'Gath, he has long-range interrupts. You can stop the early Shen teleports, and they never really got much, out of that one.
Questions around the WE draft, but you mentioned Svenskeren on that Gragas, and leading into the game, Crumbs, you had some criticism to throw at him. How did you feel about his performance this time around, as he was the person who he gave up first blood?
Yeah, it was shaky at first. When he died, he got caught off by the Sejuani multiple times. This is what it's going to look like. So the body slam misses, and then Stand United comes through. But you're going to look at Ben to be the real hero for this. Sure, the CC is there, but the fact that the Taric ultimate connects allows xiye to push forward, hit the ultimate, and not have to worry about any retaliation from TSM.
But then, in the context of the whole game, you look at how much they used for that, and that was the Stand United, as you mentioned. This allowed the top turret to be like 40% of it was taken in that duration by Hauntzer. So even though First Blood bonus goes over to Team WE, it set up TSM for later getting first tower bonus.
Actually, Hauntzer stealing red buff was also critical for him getting that advantage into the top side. But Svenskeren, even though he did get caught there, his early invade on Condi was great. He almost got first blood by himself, and so it's a much improved game from him compared to game 1 yesterday. But Svenskeren last year looked great on Worlds, and I just think it's nerves that are hitting him now, and he's slowly getting better, and I expect him to improve after seeing this performance.
I know that you're talking a lot about Sven, but I actually really still want to put the focus on Hauntzer. I think that TSM had tempo control pretty much at every single point in that game. You know, it was first tower, first Rift Herald, driving into first mid tower, falling down, and that was built off of Hauntzer, taking the red buff, getting so much damage on that, allowing TSM to set up these movements.
Let's take a look at the point in which the game blew open, though. For TSM, it was the pick around the mid lane into the Baron here. All started by this Rakan engage.
First and foremost, why are you there? Team WE, there's absolutely no reason. The go button here is the fact that TSM see that Mystic is top on Xayah trying to push the tower. No reason to be on that ramp.
Also, I want to highlight the mini-map in this replay. If you're watching it from the very beginning, Team WE, again, they drafted this Shen on purpose for the last bit of their draft here, yet they don't have 957 in position behind his turret before they're setting up for that play. If Frost is asking, why are they there? You could think, oh yeah, they have a Shen. They're planning on bringing the Shen here, with that extra man, but they didn't tell Shen. So he had to use his taunt, which is the main ability for the team fight when he gets there to try and gain distance, and he still got interrupted.
His invitation got lost in the mail to that party over near the Baron pit. Crumbs, let's talk about this, though, because for TSM, as we mentioned, it was a slow start. They built that double mountain Drake. They played his Baron. Be your Ace or Predator replay here. Huge fight for TSM.
Now, you gotta watch your AD carries, Bjergsen and Doublelift. They're just waiting on the sidelines, and then Mystic is trying to get some pot shots because Syndra just can't kill anybody right now from this position. And so while the tanks are taking all the damage, you've got Doublelift and Bjergsen just waiting for the opportunity. And the second that Sven finds Syndra, that's game over for them. They could just go haywire on this one, and then Doublelift is gonna just clean house at the very end.
Yeah, it looks okay at this point until you realize that Doublelift is untouched. He finds that back line. It's 1 Goomba stop, 2 Goomba stop. That's a free game.
That's the Tristana, though. Like, the champion for TSM has been so powerful. I really think that they have to start not letting Doublelift get this pick, allowing him to be free to do whatever he wants, especially because Tristana, the interaction with rocket jump into Sejuani, always rocket jump out of there. You don't have to take cleanse as an AD carry. You don't even have to prioritize an early QSS. Higher DPS, higher spikes, more damage.
Would you rather have him on the Xayah, on Kalista, or something like that?
Well, of course, no Kalista, though. That is, no one gets that.
Fun fact, though, Bjergsen actually had 41.3% of the team's damage in that game, so doing a lot of work on the Corki, both of those 80 carries. With that, TSM secured themselves the top spot in Group D. For more on that win, let's go ahead and send it over to Shox, who's ready with their mid laner.
Thank you very much, Dash. Indeed, with Bjergsen, who had those fantastic stats and also a pretty good game. I would say the analysts were talking about the fact that you guys took it slower than WE in the early game. They were going ham, but you guys seem to be on top of the macro. So what was the exact strategy going in?
I think when they have the Shen, Syndra, Sejuani, that's kind of, they have the global to help out, and Syndra, Sejuani has so much just CC and one-shot potential in the 2v2. So it's really hard for Sven and I to kind of move around the map, so we were forced to play slower in a sense, but the Corki Gragas was going to be better later in team fights. So It's mostly about trading when we had to, defending when we had to, and looking for any opportunities we had to get a lead, which was mostly just Hauntzer winning top 1v1 straight up. So that was kind of our mindset going into the game.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
But once you guys did get the lead, it seemed like it was pretty easy to close it out. And I want to just remember yesterday's game because that was one of those tough games where there's a lot of difficulties in closing out. So it must be really nice to be able to play a game like this. And you now find yourself at the top of the standing. So are you starting to feel, I wouldn't say comfortable, but a bit more secure in the fact that you'll be able to advance?
Yeah, I think our early game was a lot better today. Just the way we communicated across map and we had a plan kind of as a team overall. Whereas in the Flash Wolves, we had the stronger early game. But we just weren't making the right plays, and eventually they flipped the switch on us, and they made the first play. So I feel like today we made a lot of really good adjustments from yesterday, and obviously the game was less grueling. I think it's obvious that today we felt more comfortable on stage, and just everyone played better.
Well, it's going great so far. Of course, there's a lot of pressure, as always, on the shoulders of TSM. The hype seems to be even higher than normal, and you guys are 2-0. But a lot of people are interested in the growth you've gone through. You've come back with the same roster. Is there anything you can pinpoint in your play, in the team's play, in the team's the way they look at the game that you think has really leveled up from last year at Worlds?
Looking at last year Worlds and at MSI, I felt like if we got behind, we would have a really hard time coming back in the game and knowing what to do when we were behind. But we showed yesterday against Flash Wolves that we could fall behind by a good amount and still make it back through. Our team just has insanely strong team fighting, so I feel like even if we're down in gold, if we get the TSM team fight, we'll still come back. But obviously a lot of things, but I feel like our mentality from behind is the biggest change from back then.
All right, that's great to hear. 2-0 so far. Thank you very much, Bjergsen, and good luck with the rest of the games. And Flash Wolves versus Misfits Gaming is up after the break, so don't go anywhere.
That is one of my favorites, the process of elimination.
Right next to the intelligence thinking.
The logical thinking. Analytical thinking. The intelligence thinking.
I forgot the word.
Going to be going down, battle dance in, the saves are there, and Svenskeren's going to live. No, at least power the supreme. xiye picks up first blood. Throws the ultimate down, and that's only going to hit Svenskeren. That could be the kill that WE needs, though, to gain control of this jungle. Biofrost gets unleashed on as well.
Look, Syndra.
She didn't get Taric ulti.
Yeah, I'm on Taric now. I'm watching
Taric, no flash. I cancel. Okay. Can we keep chasing,
Yeah, let's go.
Biofrost goes in for another attack. Feather Storm has the reset, but Doublelift has found the resets, and he says, here we go, TSM! TSM will sit atop of Group D.
If you want to follow the best of the Rift, then you need T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. We doubled our coverage so you can stream Worlds in more places than ever before. With T-Mobile, don't miss a moment from the first battle, all the way to the lifting of the Summoner's Cup. Another reason why T-Mobile is America's best unlimited network.